Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. This is my dad, Ted.
Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Knightsky. When was the last time someone complimented you or positively reinforced what you did? When was the last time you complimented someone or positively reinforced what they did? You see, we're coming into the time of the school year here where there is a loss of tolerance for others and an increase of understanding of those same people, and that leads to a whole bunch of things, many of which are not always great. On this episode, I want to spend the bulk of time on it getting you to do some smart thinking and reflecting on your role in the environments you are in and how you are leading with positivity. I have a ton of what have become cliches in my leadership, and I want to share them with you in rapid order here because we're going to address all of them on this episode. The first one is an unspoken expectation can never be met. Keep it to yourself. Find regret. A behavior ignored is a behavior reinforced. Why are these kids acting this way? How come these people aren't respectful? Because you're ignoring it. The only way to fundamentally change another person is to first change yourself. Bring the problem to the problem. And predictability creates risk. Risk creates reward. Reward allows us to sustain. Now keep those in mind as we go through this episode because we are now going to be focusing on what we need to do to ensure that the people around us are successful and that we are leading. Because there is a theme that runs through leadership and life and is addressed by those quotes. The only person in the world that can increase your happiness, work satisfaction, engagement, and control your mindset is you. You are in complete control, and even when other people make decisions that impact you, you are always in control of how you choose to respond. Whew. I love when people push back on me and say, listen, people make me do stuff all of the time. Yeah, but how you respond and engage is going to be, how you move yourself forward. One thing you can always control is what you bring into every room and environment. And the most powerful thing that you bring is your ability to observe what is going on, provide feedback so that others learn, grow, and go forward, and ensure that others are coached when they need it. Ted, we've heard this 100 times from you about positivity. Yeah, but today I'm going to bring a concept to you in the context of the time of year and get you reflecting on why we have pinch points in classrooms in the middle of the year, why we have pinch points with colleagues in the middle of our journeys on projects, and why within our own families, we have pinch points. Pinch points are anything that, pinch us, that hurt a little bit. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to remember that positive reinforcement is the single greatest way to change the behaviors of others. And as we're about to find out, it's unfortunately scarce as we age and as time continues together. All right, before we get into it, remember our weekly reminders here. Number 1, leadership. A leader is anyone who has influence over another person, which makes all of us leading all of the time. Because everything we do, everywhere we go, people are watching and learning from us. Our energy, our insights, and our ability to problem solve is what people are looking for. The second is followership, our ability to both lead and follow, to follow the mission, to be engaged, to choose to help other people, to collaborate, to own things, and to be resilient each and every single day, as well as empathetic for others. And empathy and reflection are our 2 guiding behaviors because we constantly should be wondering what would it be like to be the people around us and what would I need if I were them, while reflecting upon the simple fact that I wonder what I did today that made a difference. All of that done by being a buffalo, looking at the storm, seeing it, charging into it, and running through it with optimism and energy. Okay. Positive reinforcement is a very powerful tool, a great thing to model, and the ultimate tactic to empower others. I want you to really think about how good are you at this? I'm not naturally good at it. I really wasn't raised this way because I was not raised in an environment where your best was pointed out. It was just inferred that you needed to do your best or else. I constantly need to remind myself to look for it and to speak it out. So when I became a young teacher, I learned really quick how powerful it was when a young person heard me say, "Wow, that was really awesome." How much energy that could give, how much empowerment that could give, how much confidence that could give. I learned how empowered I felt when my principal would share his impressions of my teaching, or when I would see an athlete respond to my coaching through one of my strengths, positivity. Okay, before I get too far, a quick story. When I was a middle school principal, I noticed this trend that I think has existed forever in the relationships in the workplace and within schools. Imagine for a moment a bar graph. The left axis is tolerance, the one that goes up and down, and it's the tolerance for the people around you. The bottom axis, the one that goes left and right, is understanding or relationships. Okay, tolerance on one side, relationships and understanding on the bottom. Well, I did a study once using the data from our school to see if there was a relationship between tolerance and understanding and how that impacted referrals to the office or conflict amongst the teams working together. I noticed a trend. Every time a project would start out or a school year would begin, everyone had really high tolerance for each other. For instance, me as a classroom teacher, the first few weeks of school, I had very high tolerance for the quirkiness of the new students. Kids are naturally in the testing of the limits of the new guy, and I understood that, so I would be a little more accepting of the little things about my students. But just like in a marriage, those cute little things get really old over time. Why? Well, they become annoying, and we lose tolerance. We lose tolerance as the other line grows as well. The more we get to know them, the less we tolerate them. So, the more we know about each other, the more judgments we make, the more judgments we make about each other and everyone around us, the more we solidify the other person's reasons or motivations. Again, we make those judgments, and the more judgments we make, we solidify our other person's perception in our own brain. As time goes on during the school year, we see a trend of tolerance dropping for each other while understanding of each other goes up. Our knowledge of the other person and our judgment begins to peak every year at the same time. Well, it doesn't really peak. What ends up happening is our understanding of them starts to go up, while the other line starts to go down, our tolerance. When is that time? When do those two lines cross each other and collide? Well, if you're listening to this episode on the real release date, the middle of January, it's right now. It's right now. Post-winter break in the northern hemisphere is when two lines tend to smash together. While our tolerance begins to drop, our understanding of the other person continues to rise because every interaction is another data set for us in our brain. It's an opportunity for us to reinforce the negative or the positive narratives we have about the other person, and our tolerance either goes up or down for those people. Here's my theory for schools. By mid-January or early February, in the northern hemispheres of the United States and the world, we know a ton about our students. We have formed biases about those students. The weather is weird. Our impressions of their parents and the other colleagues are fully formed in our brains, and we're either completely over the moon about certain students and colleagues, or we want to send them to the moon. Behavioral referrals are on the rise because our tolerance is down, and our understanding of why they are acting the way they are is firm in our minds because of the evidence we've been collecting for the last 3 or 4 months. Now, the same is true for the adult relationships in any organization. I remember being in a team meeting one time as a young teacher, and I was my normal self walking into the teacher's lounge, prepping for that meeting, and just bouncing off the walls with energy and positivity. I think it was a Wednesday. It was early in February, and it was during our prep time. I walked into the lounge with my other teachers and shouted out, "Woo, here we go, friends. Wednesday afternoon. Let's do this." And one staff member said, who was a veteran member who I adored, turned to me, glared at me, and in front of everyone said, "Ted, it's getting old." I looked at her and walked into the men's room, and a moment later, Jack, a seasoned teacher and one of my life mentors, came in and said to me, "Hey, Knightsky, it's that time of year. Nobody likes each other. Keep your head low, and once you get to spring break, people will return to normal." I was like, "Jack, that's months from now." He said, "Yep." And he was right. I mean, we all started to form those different pieces. Now, we would work together and love together and all the different things a team needs to do, but boy, was there low tolerance for each other in this strange time of the year. So years later, when I was a principal, I saw this same thing on a very large scale, and that's when I started to pull the data, observe behaviors, and look for the outliers. I started to look at where were there the least amount of conflicts in the building. I charted out referrals and compared teams and student behaviors, and then I started looking at the teams through a different wondering. Why aren't they having the same levels of disciplinary issues and conflict than the others? Because there were certain teams in the school where they didn't have these issues, and then the majority did. And I thought to myself, I need to go find out why. Now, in my observations and studies, 4 things stood true in those pieces. The first is that the teachers who worked together were very candid with each other and forgiving towards each other. Their team dynamics can be summed up in a simple statement. Every day is a new day and deserves a fresh start. Kind of a forgive and forget most of it type of mindset amongst each other. They were focused on the positive. They were people who loved the t-shirt company, Life is Good. They were optimistic. They laughed through failure and found the lessons in the relationships with the students and each other. Number 3, they never gave up on a child. If one of them had constant conflict, another teacher would step into that space and create support structures for that child, knowing that the other teacher had just passed a pivotal point where they couldn't tolerate it anymore. And number 4, they led with positive intent and positive reinforcement of each other and others, especially kids. Their empathy and their emotional intelligence was off the charts. One of my favorite stories about these teams was this theme of catching kids doing good things. There was one team of teachers who had mastered positive intent and looking for ways to elevate kids in order to elevate their own tolerance. Did you hear that? Here's what they would do. The team would talk about which students needed a lift that week at their weekly meetings. Instead of sitting around talking about what a PIA these kids were, or I can't take it anymore, or you need to do something, or we're going to start to send them to the office, they would kind of track like, all right, who needs lift? That was their words. And at their weekly meetings, they would discuss what they had to do, or who was a problem in a classroom or the halls and what they needed to do about it, not to them. Then they would all look for the opportunity to try to catch that child or person doing the smallest of things correctly. But here's where they were different. They wouldn't just give a pat on the back or a little note or a ticket that said, put this in so you can win a bike at the end of the year. They would see the behavior and then wait until class started. Once class started, they would call each other's classrooms. One teacher would pick up the phone and call the other classroom and ask that teacher to quickly step out into the hall. It was a code. They knew something was coming. The teacher who caught the kid in the micro moment of excellence would step out, and the teacher who was having conflict would also step out. So imagine, there's the teacher who was just hours before talking about, I need this to be done, I can't take this anymore, etc. And then they would agree, let's just try to find them doing something well, and then repair the relationships amongst us. So that teacher would then step out in the hallway with the student who might have been making poor choices in room 402, and they would talk to each other. The teacher and the student would walk over to the other teacher, and this magnificent exchange would take place. The teacher who caught the micro-positive moment would say to their colleague in front of the kid with great enthusiasm, hey, I want you to know that I just saw Connor pick up someone else's papers and help them out in my classroom. Isn't this the best? This kid's the best. Completely embarrassing Connor, not even engaging Connor in the conversation. Two adults talking about Connor in front of Connor in the best of ways, and then the teachers would engage with each other about all of these great things, but then they would finally turn to Connor and be like, hey, that was really cool. And they would share the ways they appreciated all the ways in which he was acting on good days. It lasted 30 to 60 seconds, and then they would go back to their work. Connor got a little positive reinforcement, but Connor saw a new perception of himself from the mouths of the adults. Connor felt temporarily elevated, and it wasn't done in front of others. Connor, for a few hours, maybe even days, maybe for the rest of the year, became more tolerable, and everyone understood each other more. This is a great example of the power of intentionally finding positivity, of using positive reinforcement, and why I want to focus on this for you at this time of the year. Your school or whatever project or collegial conflicts you are having, because it's positive reinforcement that can drive us through the darkest and most difficult times of working with other people, managing your classroom, or running a project. Quick reflection. How often are you intentionally looking for the positives in others? What is your process for sharing your observations of those positive things? And well, based upon the research and the drop of positive reinforcement over the course of our lives, I'm going to tell you right now, it's unlikely that we are all doing it a lot. Okay, again, imagine a graph. The left axis is positive reinforcement, and the bottom axis now is age. Age. I realize that some of you are wondering why I don't say X and Y axis. Well, those of you thinking of that have a good relationship with math. Most of us have a complicated relationship with math and would have to Google which is X and which is Y. So again, imagine the vertical axis, the one that goes up and down is positive reinforcement, and the horizontal axis, well, that's the course of our life. That's age. Where is positive reinforcement at birth on that graph? It's off the charts. That baby is born and all we do is get excited. When we smile, when they latch, when they poop, everything is a moment that we bring positive energy to. And you can be assured that little baby feels it. In that first year when the baby eats solids for the first time, we're taking videos and calling our parents, they ate oatmeal today. People are losing their minds. Wow, look at this. Then all of the other stages hit, rolling over, crawling, standing, speaking, eating their peas, peeing on the potty. All of these milestones are met with positive reinforcement, party supplies, streamers, and fireworks. Early childhood hits. Look who knows their alphabet. Look who can zip up their own jacket. Look who knows her address. Positive reinforcement for the first 6 years of life is so common, you likely believed as a kid that you were just shy of perfection. Then we age. And the vertical axis of positivity starts to slowly drop. And first, what was once a positive comment about us made hourly becomes every few hours. Then it's every couple of days. Then every couple of weeks. Then we hit our teens and it flips from positivity to accusatory comments. How many compliments are you doling out to your 13-year-olds if you have some at home, or you work with them in schools? Pretty few. Most of our interactions sound like this. What is wrong with you? Why don't you listen? What the hell are you doing? And when do they actually step into the occasion of making a good choice, we usually say nothing. All attention is focused on compliance with what we expect from them. Why do kids tend to act up? They don't know where they stand. It's in their nature, and you are probably unsatisfiable in their mind, so they just stop trying. Listen to this. I did some research on this hunch, and well, in developmental psychology, positive reinforcement isn't just about praise. It includes physical affection, attention, rewards, and social validation. As I'm saying these things to you, obviously make sure it's all appropriate, but while infancy is characterized by nearly constant reinforcement to build trust, adulthood often sees a reinforcement cliff, where feedback becomes more strategic and professional. Listen to this. You can actually find the research that demonstrates this. Between the ages of 0 and 2, infancy and toddlerhood, the frequency of positive reinforcement is extremely high, primarily coming from parents and caregivers, and it's everything from yelling out good job to clapping to physical cuddling. Between the ages of 3 and 5, which is early childhood, the frequency is still very high. And it comes now from parents and caregivers and teachers. Sticker charts, high fives, verbal praise, all of that different stuff. Now we hit 6 to 12-year-olds. Middle childhood is what that's called. The frequency becomes moderate. Now it's the family, peers, coaches. It's things like, well, grades, trophies, process praise. I like how hard you worked on that math problem. Then we hit 13 to 18 years old, otherwise known as adolescence. The frequency is low and selective. Now it flips for the kids because most of it is coming from their peers and social media. I don't like that second part. It's likes on their comments, and it's privilege-based. It's rewards because they get to do something later than curfew or play on their games a little longer. It's subtle verbal nods. It becomes more extrinsic than intrinsic. And then we get to 19 to 25, young adulthood. The frequency, barely anything. And it comes from bosses and teachers and professors. It's things like paychecks, performance reviews, romantic affirmation from their relationships, or their own self-reinforcement. But it's basically gone. It drops. The cliff starts out when you are 12, and then it's just gone. I couldn't find the research on 26 to 100 years old, but I don't think the word minimal would be in there. I think the word would be extinct. Okay. Once you're made aware of a problem, you face a choice. Do something or do nothing. And here's the nature of the feedback, because we're going to do something. There's a couple of different types of reinforcement that can change significantly for others. In infancy, again, it's physical and tonal. In middle childhood, it's outcome-orientated. In adolescence, it's social status. In adulthood, it's just transactional. Adulthood stinks. Transactional? Ugh. Teenage years stink. I came across a term, parental praise cliff, which explains why the adolescent dip occurs, not just in relationships and tolerance, but also in the increased negative behaviors. You'll notice a significant drop in reinforcement during teen years, and this is often referred to as parental praise cliff. I don't like that at all. As teenagers seek autonomy, they may find parental praise uncool or patronizing. Consequently, what they do is they shift their reinforcement hunger towards their peers, and especially towards digital environments like social media, which, for them, offers immediate and high-frequent dopamine hits that parents can no longer provide. Whew. That means it's our job as parents and teachers to get in there. Parents also fail to reinforce expectations and evolve with their children. Children are in motion, and if we did our job, they move towards independence, right? We want them to be independent. However, they still need to know where they stand with us. So there's an age-old strategy to help children's well-being for all people can use it. But it is especially powerful for kids and colleagues who are feeling vulnerable because they see, hear, or feel more negative reinforcement with frequency than anything else. And it's called the 5-to-1 ratio. This is a benchmark, and research has showed, especially in psychology, that if we have a positive of 5 interactions to every negative interaction, well, that's the gold standard for us. What we want to do is we want to take that gold standard throughout life and leadership, because it's kind of not fair that when you're a middle schooler that the ratio dips or even flips 5 negatives to every 1 positive. And that can contribute to a lot of friction in teenage years, especially in classrooms. And if you're a teacher, well, start hearing yourself in the classroom. Are you 5-to-1? If you're a parent, start hearing yourself in the car, the house, on the sidelines. Are you 5-to-1? If you're a colleague working with each other, are you 5-to-1? 5 positives for every 1 negative interaction. I think I know the answer because, boy, when I was putting this together, I was really reflective of how good am I at the 5-to-1. Quick aside, this idea that many people are turning to social media for reinforcement of lifestyle choices and mindset is to me a thirst needing to be quenched more than an addiction. We are all magnetically attracted to where we're needed, wanted, or admired. And social media has no soul, but you do. So make yourself a magnet for others. So how do we do that? Well, here are a couple of tips and tactics. Number 1, intentional affirmations. The other day on my feed, this really cool thing came up called Affirmations in 80s Language or something like that. Just Google it. It's a fun little card deck. And it says all these things like, you're cooler than a guy on a motorcycle driving through purple rain. But just looking for ways to intentionally affirm what you're seeing around people and just being intentional about it. When you're working with middle schoolers and high schoolers, that affirmation comes in one simple strategy. Just noticing them. Hey, I like that t-shirt. Did you get new shoes? I love those nails. Did you do something different with your hair? You look really good today. Also, catching them in the minutia. Just doing little things. I really appreciate how you walked into class today. I like how that you always have your desk set up properly. I appreciate that you're always ready to go. I love that you are always talking to other people when you come into the room and bringing lift to them. The other thing is pointing out their qualities to higher ups. So if you're working with others, one of the coolest things you can do is what the strategy called sharing a compliment that is overheard. Like the teachers did before when I gave you the example where they brought Connor in the hallway and they shared with each other what they liked about Connor while they were talking to each other. The same thing goes to relationships with adults. When you have a manager and you bring to that manager, hey, I really appreciated what happened here, and you carbon their boss on it. All right. Another thing I really love, again, just like before, is, hey, come here, I want to show you something. That's my favorite. Bringing other people in to see what they do uniquely. And this is one of my favorite strategies. When you're working with adults, too many of us don't know what's going on. And when you're walking down the halls or through projects or with each other in meetings, grabbing another person and saying, hey, I want to show you what this other person does that's really cool. What you're doing is you are reinforcing to the person who might not know what's going on or what they need to improve upon, and you're bringing them into an environment where they can see, smell, and hear what it is. Hey, check this out. Do you notice how Jerry sets up his classroom? Hey, watch how this kid, when he walks in the room, brings energy and positivity instead of conflict. Collecting affirmations in a staff meeting. Here's one I really like for you principals who are listening. Well, anybody, because you can do this in your classroom. Create a card deck with the names of all of the colleagues pre-printed on them. Deal them out and have people write an affirmation or a positive example of that person's leadership on the back. Collect them, and then later on the next day, walk around and hand them out. Anonymous, lifting affirmation quotes. Positive reinforcement. Also, Bring energy to the rooms that you're in. Almost be theatrical when you enter them. Bring what you want more of, because that's what it does. When you bring positive energy, it is responded to with positive energy. And especially with middle schools and middle school students, remember, micro, not macro, as they age. It means a lot to me when you were kind in that moment. Statements like that to a student versus bringing all of the students together and at the end of the year praising one child in front of 500. Every single day, taking advantage of the micro opportunities to reinforce right in front of them in the moment what can be done. And here's one of my favorite things that I do, and I still do it. Call students' parents on the spot on the student's phone. Now, I know most of you have that illegal now in your schools and your states, but if you can, get their phone, have them call their mom or dad or guardian, and just say, hey, this is Mr. Knightsky, the principal. And I just wanted you to know I caught your son doing something really cool just now. He's a great citizen of our community because he picked up some papers in the hallway, tossed them in the trash, and I appreciate how respectful he is of our environment. And nobody was watching. You raised a great one. Pretty easy. And do the same thing with adults. Send notes to your spouse, the spouses and partners of your colleagues. Send notes to the parents of your staff. Parents never stop wondering. It's these positive reinforcement, affirmation opportunities that we are not taking advantage of. And when we're in the middle of a project or the school year and we're starting to lose energy, well, it can come from great places, from you. And stop with the formality and the scarcity and increase the informality to make it personal and fun when you're looking for ways to be positive. Okay, enough. Here's the deal. You control the bar graph. Increase your tolerance this month by looking for the positive. It's a choice to shoot for 5-1 with everyone you interact with. It's a mindset to believe that others are capable of changing. However, those changes in others only occur when you rise to the occasion by focusing on the good of others, and letting them know what they are, and finally, what you are seeing, and you are speaking it and reinforcing it to others. That's how we get people to be their best self and give them the courage to do the same for others. So let's do some smart thinking. List your tactics for reinforcing the positives you see in other people. Describe areas in your life that you need to grow in seeing the positives of other people. And list the people in your life that need to know the good they bring to this world. That's it. That's the Smart Thinking Podcast. Hey, as always, thank you for listening. Please rate and share this. Share this with lots of leaders around the country and the world for me, because they need to remember the positive intent needs to be positively reinforced, and that positivity gets results. Make sure to follow us and go to the CESA 6 store at CESA 6, CESA, the number 6.org. We've got a great store on there with different things. There are affirmation cards. There are reflection cards. There's great staff development opportunities in there for literacy and math and special education and classroom management. We've got all kinds of great things for you. And finally, I want to announce that in March, I'm going to be launching a weekly interactive webinar series to support school leaders and leaders. What it will be is I will be sending out an email, and if you're interested, please make sure to go to our website and sign up for it. We will be sending it out, and it'll be an invitation piece where we will be online in a video webinar, and I will be sharing with you tools to do 3 things. Number 1, engage the adults that you work with. Number 2, create personal professional leadership opportunities for you. And number 3, tactics that you can use immediately to change the direction of your system. And it's going to be free. And finally, and always, thank you to the Well Pennies for all that they do and their great music and allowing us to use that each week to end our podcast with some lift. Okay, as we close out this week, I want you to remember a couple of things. The journey of a school year is long and winding. However, whether you are a teacher, a parent, a principal, a system leader, no matter what you do, firefighter, police officer, lawyer, I don't care who's listening, each of us provide the energy to get through whatever we're working on. We provide that energy. We need more obnoxious optimists in the world, people who see the bright side, shout out when they see others being positive and impactful and looking for ways to be better for others. When I was a kid, I had these 2 people in my life who knew each other but didn't know that they were both doing the same thing for me. They were my grandmas. They were unbelievable. And grandparents have such a different perspective of their grandchildren. And I truly believe they live in a sense of constant wonderment and worry as grandparents about the grandchildren in their lives. But as a young man in middle school, I really struggled with acceptance and navigating the traumatic things happening around me. However, there were two constants, Ginny and Helen. Unknowingly, they would always remind me of the things, they would always remind me of great things and good things, and they would always also help me with my brothers and help my brothers. One of my grandmothers was quick with compliments and candor, and I always knew the rules of engagement with her and how to act and what to do, as she would remind me of all of my areas for growth, yet fuel me with reminders of my strengths and qualities. The other grandmother would always inquire as to what was going on in my life and just listen. And when the conversation was over, mostly about me, as soon as it was coming to conclusion, she would explain to me through stories how she had done things and then share how I was better positioned in life to overcome that because I was strong and I had more opportunities in life as a result of the different things that I had around me, like technology. It's no wonder that all of my life, in middle school, in high school, and college, I was always at one of their houses. Always. We are all negatively charged, looking for the positively charged person to stick to and with. And that's your charge this week. Because when I would go to my grandmother's house, I'd pull in with negativity and tap into that positivity, and I'd leave there feeling amazing. And that's what you're going to do this week. Be the one positively charged person in every environment, looking for the ways in which people are contributing in their small ways and then in their big ways, and building a better world for themselves. If you're a leader, think about how to lift the adults you support through positivity. If you're a colleague, be the teammate that brings the energy. If you're the teacher, bring it to the parents and the kids. What we model is what we get. So, be the one who sees the good. Be the one who brings processes to support the good. And be the one who breaks the graph by charging into the problems and supporting others.
Maybe it could amaze me if I were to step outside my door. And when, 'cause it would surely happen, discovering all that land and sea, and no one knows but me. And I've got nothing to do today, and I don't want it any other way. So I am gonna sail myself away, 'cause I've got nothing to do today. Oh, I go wherever the wind blows, whatever I build inside my head. Lately, I've got a whole lot of spark in me. Don't wanna lose that lonely glow, the only thing I know. And I've got nothing to do today, 'cause I don't want it any other way. So I am gonna sail myself away, 'cause I've got nothing to do today. I've got nothing to do today. Oh, feel that hope arising, sun is shining, find the light in anything. Maybe it could amaze me if I were to step outside my